Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to our Friday live stream here on Texas Football. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you guys for joining us. Y'all know how this works. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel and the man Bobby Burton himself. You guys, please hit us up. Questions, comments, throw them out there. We'll get to as many of them as we can. You know, super chats, they jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. See, we're already starting off with questions. You got one right there ready to go. All right. Before we get into it, I got one topic we will discuss a little bit later on. We will talk about some comments that Jay Norvell made at the media days that are kind of going viral. I think it's worth having a conversation about. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit later on. But most of this will be about recruiting. There's a lot of news in the recruiting realm. Bobby, I don't know if you want to start things off with any news, but I'll just kind of open it up. How you doing, brother? How's everything? It's been a while.
I'm doing good. I'm ready for the weekend. How about you?
I am ready for the weekend, no doubt. Well, and then you got SEC Media Days. See, I almost slipped up there. SEC Media Days coming up next week, so big week for Texas, and I know you're excited about that. Actually, CJ, you got two things you're excited about: SEC Media Days and the college football video game that'll be coming out like right after SEC Media Days. And I think you're excited more about the latter than the former, actually.
Well, we'll see, Rod. Of course, we'll be up in Dallas for SEC Media Days. I'm not sure when I'll get my hands on the game to get going. Of course, I'm not going to be carrying around a PlayStation or anything like that up to Dallas. We'll wait till we're back in Austin and get settled again before we dive into there. And I'm sure we'll get some content going from there over here on Texas Football.
Yeah, no, it'll be a lot of great content, I'm sure, about it. Everybody's excited about SEC Media Days, Texas first SEC Media Days. Okay, so we'll get to all of your questions, super chats, of course, so throw them out there. We'll get to some recruiting. I know you guys are kind of championing at the bit to talk some recruiting on the show. I've already seen some of those. So let's start things off with, and also we'll get to some baseball conversation. But let's start things off with Stanfield here. Just a random question from Stanfield here to start things off for me. And I appreciate that. Says that Rod, excited about the talent in our secondary. Believe talent is better than last year. How many games into the season do you think it will be before they become a consistently cohesive unit? That's a great question. Cohesive. I would say they need to have it done by that Oklahoma game, and they need to be a cohesive unit by then. I don't know if even Michigan, I don't know if they're going to really test the secondary and their prowess as a coverage unit, because I don't know if Michigan has those kind of parts, and I don't know if the offense is designed that way. They'll replace one of the best receivers in the country, and when they face Colorado State, and Torrey Horton, he's a really good test for them, but he's only one dynamic player for them. I think Texas will have a game plan designed to take him away or to neutralize him. But in terms of a passing attack, and CJ and I actually were talking about this because we will do the Oklahoma preview coming up. That passing attack could be a very dangerous one with the weapons they have on offense. If the offensive line gels before that Texas game, they got one of the best wide receiving corps in the country, and it is an explosive wide receiving corps. So some of the issues that Texas has faced recently, or at least that they have dealt with recently, even in the spring game, I mean, let's be honest, even in the spring game, boy, they're giving up deep balls, inside breaking routes, some same stuff I've been complaining about for the last 2 years. They saw it in the Washington game, even saw it in the Oklahoma State game, in the Big 12 title game, even though they beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, they completed some deep passes downfield. That's kind of my concern. And there's a lot of verticality, or at least there was in the Jeff Lebby offense. I assume that Seth Luttrell is going to try to keep that element of the OU offense and those vertical shots downfield. CJ will give you the numbers on those guys in the yards per reception. I know he's someone who's actually really high on that wide receiving corps for Oklahoma. That's where I can see the first potential problem if they don't have if the secondary and the pass defense hasn't necessarily found their groove by then and found their identity. They will be better. I think they will be better as well, but I will admit the spring game didn't give me a lot of optimism, a lot to work with looking at the secondary.
Hey Rod, I got to jump in. You mentioned Torrey Horton, the guy out of Colorado State that Texas opens with. He's the wide receiver. The quarterback at Colorado State, we can listen to this, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Our producer has this pulled up. According to Jay Norvell, the former Texas assistant that now is the head coach at Nevada, now the head coach at Colorado State, his quarterback at Colorado State got offered quite a bit of money from a Big 12 team this offseason. Listen to this clip, guys.
Braden had the same kind of offers, and you can't, if you have enough evidence, you can prove it, but smoking gun. He said a guy from Kansas State called him, offering him $600,000 because they lost their quarterback. And if he got in the portal, and I'm not accusing Kansas State of anything, I'm just telling you what the kid told me. And so if they don't want their name thrown in it, I think they should probably get a handle on their people. But there's a lot of that going on in college football, and that's just the way things are right now.
$600,000 for a quarterback. You heard it.
I love it. By the way, he is actually a decent player. He had 3,400 yards. This is Braden Fowler Nicolosi, I'm assuming they're talking about here. 3,400 yards, 62% completion percentage this year, 6.8 yards per average net yards per attempt, 7.4 yards per attempt, and 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. So that's the player we're talking about here.
Here's what's crazy to me. Here's what's crazy to me in that conversation, guys. Why is Kansas State offering a quarterback $600,000 when they think they have the heir apparent already on campus? And Avery Johnson. Remember, a lot of Kansas State fans were ready for Will Howard to haul butt. As it was.
I was ready, Bobby. I'm ready.
Now we're sitting here looking at they're offering a quarterback from Colorado State $600,000. What is it? What's the world come to? I don't know.
I guess I need to rethink what Heisman future I'm going to throw on Avery Johnson this year if they're not confident in him to be that guy, right? 600,000. That's not. It's not nothing. But yeah. I wonder. Do you hear that from Jay Norvell if he's the head coach at a USC, in Oklahoma, of Florida?
No,
probably not.
No, not at all. Hey, real quick, we should get through a baseball piece, Rod.
Can I add something really quick to this conversation before we get down here?
Yep.
The question is, so there are multiple questions here. I do believe that the value of those quarterbacks, like starting quarterbacks at the Power 5 level, that value actually may be right. Remember, Open Doors, they release their annual review every year and then their projections for the next year. And they claimed in their latest, and Open Doors is a company that keeps up with NIL transactions via collectives and directives and agents and other sources. And they claim that a top 25 team is expected to earn, top 25 quarterback for a quarterback, starting quarterback for a top 25 team is expected to earn $821,000.
Woo!
That's their projection for the next year. This past year, I guess last year, $648,000. So it sounds about right.
Average.
They said that's kind of that's for a top 25. So I don't know but K-State considers it. So this is the thing. I think the value overall may be right because I remember 247 Sports. Remember they did one recently where they looked at talking to players and talking to agents. They put together what they believe was the college football NIL market value range for each position, and they had quarterback from $500,000 to $800,000, $500,000 to $800,000. This is what you get via the transfer portal if you are a top quarterback. So I would say the value actually may fit. Now the question is, did somebody from K-State, rogue booster, collective, directive, coach, whatever, did they actually offer that? Or did the young man's agent representative, say, hey, that's what he's worth. That's his value, I think, on open market. And keep in mind this, when you're talking about this stuff, it's like when you're trying to sell somebody something, and you have that range, you go, hey, you can make upwards of this. You can make upwards of 600,000 if you're the starting quarterback and you start every game and all this. but we're gonna start you off at 125,000. You know what I mean? So I think he may. It's like you hear what you want to hear. Like what I used to tell women back in my day when I was a player, I would say, I think at one point I could see myself falling in love with you. And then all they would hear is love you. And I was like, whoa, I said a lot in between love you and I. And yet all you heard was love you. So I gave myself a little bit of wiggle room. And I feel like that's the selling point for K-State. They were like, hey, if you come here, you could make 600,000 if everything goes right. If you're the starting QB, but you probably gonna make 150,000 to come here and back up. And I kind of believe it because Chris Kleiman likes having two QBs. He had Martinez when he had Will to Spill. All right. Yeah. He had Will Howard and Avery Johnson. He kind of likes having two. He's always had two that he believes are capable starters. So anyway, that's random. Throw it out there.
Well, I got to say this, Rod, you are a true player. I don't think I ever thought it out long enough to go that far and evaluate my conversation with females in that way. I'll just put it that way. Hey, the baseball news. The reason I wanted to get back to that real quick, we left off on coffee and football this morning. Blake had kind of teased some big baseball news coming up, CJ, and that it did break. That news broke about, I guess, 2 hours ago now. CJ, do you mind telling folks about Drew Rarick, how do you say that name, and his pledge to the Longhorns?
Yeah, big commitment for Texas. Drew Rarick out of what is it, Fargo, North Dakota, I believe. He's a kid from up north, and he can sling the rock a little bit, up to 96 to 98 miles per hour on the fastball. He's a top 150 prospect for this upcoming draft, which begins on Sunday, rolls all the way through Tuesday. So a lot of Texas prospects will be hearing their name called and obviously have that decision up, left to go. But this is a perfect game, rated 10, if you will, when it comes with Drew Rarick. That's the equivalent of a football 5-star. So this is a big get. It's a big flip from Texas A&M, and we've talked about it as well, Rod and Bobby. The way that this staff has kind of approached pitching and the accumulation of arms over the last 2 to 3 weeks, very similar to what we saw with Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood going out and saying, whoa, we need to completely redo what was in this offensive line room because it's not up to par. That's what we've seen so far. 7 portal additions, most of them pitching, 5 of them have been arms in years past. Right now, again, a big addition for the future of Texas baseball with Drew Rarick. This is a 5-star ad, if you will. Big time arm right here. He brings the cheddar, a guy that has starting rotation ability, as well as a guy that you could throw in the back of the bullpen and potentially develop into a closer long term as well.
Good stuff. I want to get that in. I also want to get this in now. Rudy O says, Bobby, you had conversations. Rod had game. 817 Mr. Talk Too Much. Rod B was out there shuffling the deck, running through them like a weak RB on a sweep.
Hey, man, I'm just saying, back in my day, I did have some cheat codes, man. I did. I can let y'all in on a couple of them. Okay, here's a good one. First of all the student athletes back in the day before they got all these, these privileges and these extra benefits, right? Ladies are starving. Everybody's starving. So I would take some Tupperware down to the dining hall and I would take extra food up to the room, like extra chicken fried steak, some mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, whatever. And I'd invite the track girls and the soccer girls to my dorm room. Yeah, y'all want to eat? I got some extra up there. I know y'all hungry because dining hall would be really early. And then so at like 8 o'clock, you still hungry? Hey, ladies, come on over here. I got some of that good dining hall food for y'all. Boom. And I didn't have to spend no money on it. I'm sure it was an NCAA violation, but hey, we got to eat. And I would, hey,
Rod B's dining hall. Come on.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I ain't got to go. I want to take them out to eat, but I ain't got no money. I'm broke. This is before the NIL days. So you got to do what you got to do. That was one of my tricks of the trade right there. Boom. So I basically I'd ask him on a date, but it was in the dorm dining hall kind of date, but in the dorm, baby. Boom. Exactly. Boom. I had all that. Boom. I'd get the Tupperware full, put that in. I'd go to every dining hall with a backpack. Tricks of the trade. They don't even do that no more. Now they can take them to VY Steakhouse. Now they living good. I was a ball on the budget, man. You know what I'm saying?
You could teach a course back in the day.
Exactly. Hey, you're right. I'm not a player. I'm not a player. I just I found ways to make the ladies feel special. They want to feel special. That's all. There you go. One of my tricks. No longer needed. It's no longer applicable. It's because they don't even have to do that anymore. Now they got real money. Good for them. All right, let's get to some more stuff. See, y'all got me started. I shouldn't even be telling y'all this stuff. I should be saving this. These some good secrets, tricks of the trade. How about this one? This comes from our man Kyle. He said, I guess we already get the baseball news. He said, can you tell us the baseball news that Blake left a cliffhanger with us this morning? We got to that. George wants to know. George Callis says, will we improve our red zone offense this year? And have the guys spoke about how to improve the red zone offense. We have actually talked about this. Coach and I did a 2-part football theory on it at one point. And CJ and I have gotten into several discussions on the live stream about it. I can do a deep dive. This is actually my red zone research right here. I don't know if y'all can see that. Boom, that's my. I went and looked at red zone plays for Texas and went and looked at conversion rates, success rates, and yards per play, right? And I looked at all the plays that I have been able to document and track. And I was looking at basic commonalities, common trends between those plays. And it was one of the things that we talked about, CJ. One thing that I did find out of the 10 top plays, just kind of based on those different metrics, 6 out of the 10 of them involved like misdirection of some kind. Misdirection, half boot, half roll, waggle by the QB, obviously the pre-snap motion in one direction, get them going. It was there was misdirection, split flow in the backfield, whatever you're talking about. That's one thing I did notice, but obviously we can go into the details and deep dive in it one day. And even soon I can do another football theory on it and we can dive into it. Maybe on the winning drive, we can do it. But that's one of the things that really stood out to me. Misdirection down there. Because think about it. Everything happens faster in the red zone. So one false step by the defender, that's all she wrote. It's done. Especially with the kind of speed that Sark has down there in the red zone. And another thing I threw out there was that if you study the best red zone teams in the NFL, a lot of them are from the Shanahan, McShanahan coaching tree, as we call it. I think he should start running more 21 personnel in the red zone. The 49ers are one of the best red zone teams in the league. So are the Miami Dolphins, one of the best red zone teams in the league. The Green Bay Packers are really good there. All those teams, one of the common things they have and that I think that connects them all, connective tissue, is that they have 2-back sets. Now, Shano uses a traditional fullback, or at least a modern version of it. Mike McDaniel uses more of a pony package, but also has a fullback when he uses it. Even Matt LaFleur, before they moved on from Aaron Jones, but they had A.J. Dillon. He likes having 2 running backs. They just got with Josh Jacobs there now. He likes having 2 backs, and will also use a 2-back set every now and then. I'm not saying they use it in the red zone and the goal line all the time, but it's really effective in those situations. And I think that's one of the common threads of those teams who are some of the top red zone teams in the NFL. So like I said, I can go into a deep dive. Hell, I could do another 30, 40 minutes on it, but it is one of the biggest mysteries right now regarding Texas football. The team has gotten better. The culture is better. Sark's a hell of a coach. We all know that now. He's got championship. He's a championship caliber coach. And yet the red zone offense for Texas has gotten progressively worse. Like it was, and you were a top 5 red zone offense in 2021. Top 5. 4th in red zone offense, 3rd in touchdown percentage in the red zone. 2021, you were a top 20 red zone offense, 65th in touchdown percentage in the red zone. And last year, you dropped to 120th in touchdown percentage in the red zone and 90th in red zone offense with 3 draftable NFL wide receivers, a drafted NFL tight end, a running back that's a second round pick at running back, and the biggest offensive line in the NFL, and a quarterback that's going to get drafted in the 1st round. How the hell do you struggle in the red zone with that many weapons and an offensive play caller that is brilliant? We all recognize it is a great mystery. And even Sark didn't figure it out, guys. He didn't figure it out. He had one good red zone offense game, and that was Oklahoma State. That was it. And the rest of the games, even Texas Tech, they weren't great in the red zone. It is a great. I think it's a post Bijan Rojo hangover. That's the only thing I can think of. That you just got that much worse after Bijan and Rojo left because, and I'm not saying it's lazy, it was just hell, put some Bijan on it with a side of Rojo. In the red zone, those two guys were so uniquely elite in breaking tackles, forcing missed tackles in the red zone, and it was pretty damn easy. Just find a way to get them the ball. Hand it off, screen game, in the flat, check down, get Rojo and Bijan the ball. And I'd love to kind of go back and look at how often in the red zone they were targeted and they got touches when they were here. And I think for Sark, he has had even struggled figuring out what his identity is in the red zone. Sometimes we're jumbo. Sometimes we want to spread it out. Sometimes we think players and not plays in the red zone. Texas doesn't know who they are in the red zone. That's why with all those weapons, they still struggled. So I don't know if they're going to get better. I assume they will because I'm sure Sark is obsessing about it just like we are.
It was the frustrating season I've ever seen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bobby. Go ahead, Bobby.
Did they get worse because they lost Roschon Johnson?
Yeah, that's what I said. I believe it's a post-Bijan, post-Rojo hangover. That's the only thing I mean, because
Roschon could run the Wildcat.
Yep. And he was great.
Know.
And he was great at breaking down. Hell, CJ, did you say, and I think statistically, there are some stats that say he was better at breaking tackles than Bijan, if you extrapolate it.
I forget what the missed tackles force number was. He was up there, obviously, with Bijan amongst the Big 12's leaders when they were together. I did feel like in tight spaces, he was at times much more difficult to bring down than Bijan was. Bijan in space is really where you saw him put guys on skates, kind of elude guys without being touched. Roschon, again, I thought that at 6'2", 220, 225, this was a guy that could drag on a few defenders. I thought Jonathan Brooks had that in him as well. Maybe not to the extent of a Roschon Johnson, but, you would turn 2 yards into 4, 2 yards into 5. You would see that at times, guys draped on his back, and he'd be carrying them an extra yard or two. That pays off in the red zone. What doesn't pay off in the red zone is when you're getting hit behind the line of scrimmage and you're turning a 2-yard loss into a 0-yard gain. And that's what happened a few times with Texas in the red zone. Whatever it was, the blocking scheme wasn't up to par, and you didn't have those heroic efforts to kind of lead you to where you wanted to be, and that was the end zone. You look, most blatant to me was that 4th and 1 that started on the goal line against Oklahoma. What do, right? You go jumbo, jumbo, jumbo. You don't gain a yard, and you say, oh, shoot, now we got to try something else. We can't do it again. You throw a quick screen to Xavier Worthy behind the line of scrimmage. 160-pound guy is not gaining a yard with 2 guys draped all over him. It's just, it's just how weight works, right? So that's, to me, you got to be smarter. You got to be more unique. What did Texas do in the Oklahoma State game and the Big 12 championship? Oh, let's go jumbo, but let's have a little flicker there. Oh, it's a pass to Tavondre Sweat, who's wide open by 10 yards in the end zone. I understand that there's setups. You use big plays for big games, but at no point is Oklahoma not a big game, and at no point is a 4 attempts at the goal line from a yard out, some scenario in which you should come away with no points, right? So we'll see what that addition is. How do they go out and they change that in 2024? Because it was bad a year ago, and it was bad. There's no reason for Bert Auburn to be seeing 33 field goal attempts again this year. He should be seeing nowhere near that with a returning offensive line, a third-year starting quarterback in the system. Really, I wouldn't like to see Bert Auburn see 20 field goal attempts. But, again, the game of football is a weird deal. So what adjustments are made, we'll see.
That's a good point, though, about the Bert Auburn thing, too. And a lot of people are predicting Bert Auburn to be All-American. And my take was, I think Bert Auburn's awesome. It's going to be an NFL kicker. I don't know if you want him being an All-American because that means Texas red zone issues are still a thing. And Sark's choosing to take those points. Bo Texno says, Rod, I know you're an analytics guy. On several shows, you discussed how Texas needs to improve in the red zone offense. However, in their last 3 games, Texas wins 16 of 19, 12 touchdowns. Is it not figured out? Yeah, I think that's a little skewed by, like I said, the Oklahoma State game. They were almost perfect in the red zone, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go back and look at the numbers. So that's a little skewed from the Oklahoma State game. And, I mean, obviously in the Washington game, you'd have liked to have been better in the red zone, just because I think if you potentially had obviously the last drive. So I'm not saying they didn't improve on it. I just giving you the numbers overall and giving you the trend from year to year, which I think the year-to-year trend is more troubling than the positive momentum, I think, or at least the optimism I gained from watching them in the last 3 games. Like I said, I'm not saying Sark won't figure it out either. Sark's out the entire offseason. This staff has shown a tendency to address some of the problematic issues in the offseason and get them fixed and have a remedy for them the following season. When you're talking about, third down defense, or when you're talking about, rushing defense, offensively, when you're talking about penalties, different things, when you're talking about the deep ball improved with Texas. So there are certain elements. I think Sark is looking at red zone offense right now, and I think he's got a plan. I don't know what the plan is, but like I said, we theorize. That's what the football theory is about.
I want to say this. Y'all are pissing me off, and you're not meaning to, but y'all just brought up the 2 situations that pissed me off about the Texas 2023 season worse than anything. The 4 first and goal from the 1 and get shut out by OU, and then the not scoring on the last drive against Washington. Y'all are unbelievable. Y'all just made y'all made me upset.
I'm sorry. I didn't even want to talk about red zone offense. It was a question they brought up, and honestly, I don't want it to seem like it's a bigger deal than it is. I mean, you damn near got to the national title with the 120th basically touchdown percentage in the red zone offense in the country. You won't be that bad. They're going to improve on it. I think it's something to ponder as to why you were that bad and you had that many elite weapons. Like, that is worth diving down the rabbit hole to go, okay, now why is this the case? There's something that's amiss here. This doesn't even make sense. And it doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of what that's what I looked at. But I don't want people to think that, that's a doomsday situation. Not a doomsday. No team is perfect. There's no perfect team in football, period. NFL or college. You're going to have these issues. You're going to have every team you look at. Even Kansas City won the Super Bowl. Worst wide receiving core in the NFL. Worst wide receiving core in the NFL. More holding penalties than any team in the league offensively. You ain't going to be perfect. No team is. No child is. No team is. No woman is. People cheating on Beyonce. Ain't no woman perfect. All right? No man's perfect. None of us. So
the next thing you know, we're going to be talking about the Texas 2-minute defense against OU.
Exactly.
Or against Kansas State. That's the next thing you know. Or we're going to be trying to cover crossing routes from Houston.
Hey, I got some numbers on those.
Why don't we just talk about those things and make me really get upset for a few minutes?
I don't know why we had three questions early on about red zone offense. I don't know why that came up. All right, let's go to something that'll put us in a better mood. Let's thank our fantastic sponsor, one of our fantastic sponsors, our folks over at South Point. Really excited and happy to have them as a part of the Owen, Texas football family. And if you are looking for a new car today, you need to head on over to South Point Dodge. If you're looking for a way to score an easy extra point this season, you can get to the point over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, ladies and gentlemen. 600 vehicles. That's a lot of vehicles, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is the one-stop shop. Also, if you're looking for a great deal, head on over to South Point Dodge. Right now, you can shop over 50 2500s, all marked down with huge savings from South Point Dodge. Go check out their excellent selection at southpointdodge.com. That's southpointdodge.com. Or you can go see them for yourself in person off of I-35 in South Austin. Go check them out for yourself at South Point Dodge. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. Thank you very much for sponsoring the live stream, our Friday live stream, and being a part of the Owen, Texas football family. We really appreciate them. All right, we'll get to some more of the questions. Please, no more red zone questions or questions about inside breaking routes and deep balls. All right. Yeah, it's Friday, and Bobby wants to be in a good mood. He wants good vibes on a Friday. All right, so let's talk recruiting. Do we have some good news in recruiting? Give me some good recruiting news. That'll put us in a good mood.
I think there's some stuff brewing right now.
Okay.
So a couple things that we need to mention. First of all, Jonathan Cunningham, linebacker out of North Crowley, announces tonight, I believe at 7 p.m. At least that's the currently scheduled time. he's expected to decide between Texas, Utah, and TCU. TCU has been the one to watch for here, but right now I still feel very good about Texas's chances. The Longhorns have been on Cunningham as long as anybody. Texas trying like the Dickens right now. TCU trying to sell early playing time, etc. But I think Texas has a chance to win out tonight. We'll find out around 7:00. The other thing that commitment time has been set for about a week, week and a half, Rod. Jerry Hamilton just reported right before we went on air, by the way, and this is on TexasFootball.com. If you're not a subscriber, you should be. But he reported that Aiden Anding, the defensive back out of Ruston, Louisiana, may be having a little back and forth about what he's thinking about doing. We reported, and he told us that he was going to visit LSU officially or go see them at the end of July. Now he's debating whether or not LSU is even going to get that visit before he makes up his mind. He told Jerry today that he's going to decide that by Sunday. And if he decides not to do that, he will decide between Texas and Arkansas. So this is we talked about Texas needing some help in the secondary, and they didn't have that many guys left on the table. Aiden Anding in Texas may be back on again after a week ago. We were thinking, hey, they may be out of it. So interesting development there. We're also watching, obviously, for Jonathan Cunningham as well.
Thank you for that, Bobby. Speaking of, this is the Jameson Washington question here. Jonathan Cunningham, any news on which way that recruitment is going? You just addressed it a little bit, but any more?
I feel good. Look, I think Texas, whenever you're fighting, I'll say this. Whenever a team is fighting and saying, well, you can get on the field here faster than you can somewhere else. Whenever that team is using that argument, the opposite of it is, so they don't think you're good enough to compete with us, but you're good enough to compete for them. What does that say about their team? And that argument wouldn't have worked with Rod Babers, I don't think. And so that's been the pitch, I think, for Jonathan Cunningham by some teams. And I don't necessarily think it's worked. I think there was concern that it might, but I don't think so. We'll see. We'll see tonight at 7. I feel good about it, but this is a to the whistle recruitment. We'll see what Jonathan Cunningham, linebacker out of North Crowley, decides later tonight.
All right, good stuff there, Bobby. All right, let's get to some more questions, guys. Appreciate you guys, your participation. Mike wants to know, do you guys think we will still be able to sign 2 more high-quality linebackers in this cycle? Think it's an area of need as well as D tackle?
Well, I mean, Cunningham would be one. The other, CJ, is obviously Madden Faremo, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. With Riley Pettijohn off the board, where else do you see targets? Well, Texas only brought in 4 guys at the linebacker spot for official visits this June. And the only other one uncommitted at the moment, aside from Jonathan Cunningham, is Madden Faremo. Texas and Notre Dame duking it out a little bit right now. USC back in the picture there as well, having lost out on Riley Pettijohn earlier as well. So Madden Faremo is an interesting one, right? And I think that picture towards the end of July, whenever the dead period opens back up, will tell you a little bit whether or not he wants to get back out on the recruiting scene, go see a couple more schools, go to Notre Dame, go to Texas, maybe get an idea of where that first visit goes as he enters his senior season out in California. That'll be interesting. Right now, no plans set. But at the same time, if Texas was able to get him back on the campus, that would be 3 visits in the last, 5 months. That's pretty impressive for the Longhorns, who long before this were not necessarily considered contenders at all for Faremo. And of course, we heard following the official visit, Texas put its best foot forward. Johnny Nansen made him a big priority. They evened the field with Notre Dame for a bit. How much more will they be able to sustain the Notre Dame hype from before the official visits after those, post-visit highs kind of wear off? That'll be kind of the big selling point right now with Faremo. But I agree. would like to have 3 linebackers in this class, having only taken Ty Anthony Smith a year ago and seeing Samaje Burrell and Kendrick Blackshear both leave the program in the spring.
Let's stick with the defensive side of the ball here and the linebacker position. David Keith Williams. Thanks, David Keith. We appreciate it. At CJ Vogel, it seems Texas is now in contention for the 2025 IMG linebacker, Nathaniel Owosu Boateng. He's actually evaluated higher than Bo Barnes and Ferramo. What's your view of him as a UT linebacker target?
Yeah, talented kid, out of IMG Academy. He's close with Jordan Johnson-Rubel because who isn't, right? But the two played together a year ago. He actually visited Texas January 20th for the junior day. A bit of a surprise at the time, but I do not believe that there was a lot of communication from the spring into the summer. Obviously, no official visit has been scheduled or was scheduled at the time. If Texas does get back involved here, I think he's a very talented football player. You see it again, that kind of length that Johnny Nansen and the Texas defense is coveting right now. He's got some length to him, and he can get sideline to sideline. I don't have a 100-meter dash time on him. I know, of course, Elijah Barnes, 10.9, Riley Pejon, 10.7. We've seen what Matt Ferramo can do. I'm not sure where he falls into that category, but he is a very talented football player, and it'd be quite the scoop if Texas was able to, come back around and make that interesting this deep into the recruitment.
Boateng, I saw him in person last year, Rod. More of an outside linebacker. Ferramo and Barnes are more of those mics interior. You're running a 4-2 that you want between, you know what I mean?
Yep.
True 4-2.
Yeah.
Boateng's more of an outside guy.
Okay. Yeah. Ferramo is impressive. I got to go watch some film of Boateng. I hadn't watched any, but Ferramo, man, he jumps out. He jumps off the screen. How about this? Kyle, congratulations to Kyle Vachoska. I hope I said the name correctly. I finally became an OTFOG. Appreciate all the OGs out there, all the OTFOGs out there, and Cal too. Finally became one. Hey, good move. Wise decision. For everybody else out there, if you want to become an OTFOG, and I would recommend it, run that special. You can always go check it out. $20 off the annual subscription to the site. If you use the code OTFOG, boom, there it is right there. You can make it easy yourself. You can save money. Simply $60 a year. You save $39.95. If you're a ball on the budget like Rod B, you'll appreciate that. So OTFOG, baby. Appreciate. Thank you, Matthew, for that as well. And congratulations to all the OTFOGs. Thank you guys for helping us build this community. Okay, let's get back to the questions here. All right, see, Woodcrest is going to keep asking until we make it happen, CJ. Can we get an online dynasty going for OTF for college football 25? All right.
I'd love it. I think that'd be a blast. It'd take a lot of coordination, of course, to get that thing going, and a lot of time for folks to be able to hop on at the same time. So we'll see. Of course, I'd like to get the game first and try to figure some things out by then. So after SEC Media Days, we're going to table it from now. After SEC Media Days, we'll see if we can get something going.
I don't think I've seen a group of adult men be more giddy about a video game in my life.
No.
I've seen my kids be very excited about video games. I don't know if I've seen adult males be this excited about a video game ever.
No, you're right. I agree with that.
Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out. Bobby, you might not see me for a week.
That's when CJ's going to take vacation time just to play the game for a few days. Oh, can I ask you this, CJ? May sound like an ignorant question. The actual console that you use when you're playing with other people online, do you have to use the same console or can you use different consoles?
For the dynasties that everybody's talking about right now, you will have to be on the same console across wherever you're playing from. But that's something I hope that, they get kind of fixed out before, the next editions down the road.
Okay. What do you use? What's your game console?
I'll be getting a PlayStation. I'll be making the move over from an Xbox to a PlayStation. I don't know. I've been out of the gaming world for quite a while, Bobby. So I'm excited for this one. I got to get back in, get the headsets, get extra controllers because might be breaking a few.
Yeah, we used to have in the dorm, we'd have a pot basically of money that you'd have to contribute to when you broke controllers because there's a lot of controllers getting broken there. Yeah, and it's mostly offensive guys breaking the controllers.
No,
They-
the last game, Rod, I tell you what, I went through multiple headsets. I was trying to talk to friends. You would just hear like the little scattering of what's going on, and then they would just go dead quiet. You just hear the little, bzzz, you know, the little buzz at the end. And that's how you know if someone was not having a good day and would be making the trip up to GameStop or Walmart to get a new headset in the next week or so.
I don't know what would be more humiliating and what would be more hurtful to me, losing to a stranger or losing to like somebody I'm close to in the game. Because I never played strangers. We played guys.
I almost lost friends, but Rod. There's still some friends where we'll see each other, and as long as this game's not brought up, we'll be good to go. But the minute NCAA 14 or Madden gets brought up, oh, we're on edge again.
Yeah, that's kind of, okay. Yeah, see, I think I might be better playing a stranger. That way, I can just disconnect. When you play somebody you're close to, man, it hurts a little bit more. All right, let's get back to some of the questions here. Thank you guys for the questions. All right, how about this one from Daniel? He wants to know, Daniel, does anyone know if Sark has struggled as a head coach in red zone before? I don't remember that ever being a topic. I will go back and do some research. It shouldn't take that long. I don't know if he has. And like I said, I don't remember that being part of the narrative about Sark. I did a deep dive, kind of rabbit hole analysis of Sark as his offenses. And that's not something that I noticed that was systemic or a trend, but I will go back and look, Daniel. I will go back and check it out. I'll go back and see if there's something. I doubt it though. I doubt it very seriously. And honestly, that's a good question for Sark at SEC Media Days. There's a couple of questions, honestly, for Sark about it. Just ask. I guarantee you he's been in the lab. He's been in the lab about the red zone offense. And what he probably did was he probably looked at the top red zone offenses in college football, top ones in the NFL, probably brought up some D3, D2 offenses that were great in the red zone. And you kind of start there and see if there's something that you're not doing that some of them are doing. And if there are some commonalities, and then you got to dive down deep into your own. You got to do a kind of, an intrinsic analysis, try to figure out what could have been the problem, what you can gather, what could have been the problem. And then I think you just need new ideas, right? Creativity, innovation. And Sark admits, hey, he goes to steal concepts all the time or borrow concepts. I think that's where the second step after the introspection should be, all right, let's go just steal from the best red zone offense in the country, because you have the personnel to be able to execute that kind of stuff. You'll have the O-line to be able to do whatever a dominant O-line is doing. You'll have a very skilled quarterback to make throws if that's what a team is doing. You'll have the skilled talent on the outside to be able to win different matchups, speed, whatever it may be, if they're taking advantage of. So that's what I think he's doing, and that's what I would suggest, first and foremost. All right, thank you for the question there. This one, another question from Tyler. Does our third down conversion percentage stay the same defense-wise? I mean, you were so good. I don't know if you could get better. You talking about defense or offense here? What are we talking about, defense-wise? I don't know what were you, second? Were they second?
They were top 5.
I think they were like second or third in the country, I believe. And which this is a great example though. And and CJ talks about this all the time. So I'll give CJ credit about how this regime, this coaching staff, they will look at a particular problematic issue for them during the season, and you can tell there are concerted efforts to solve that problem, right? Whether that be through innovation or whether that be through personnel changes, whatever, schematic changes. They figure out. I always say coaches are problem solvers. They do figure out how to solve the problem. Usually, not saying every time. Sure, there's some we can look at. Secondary, probably one of them, but usually they will solve the problem. And third down defense is one of the examples. I want to say they were 93rd or 4th in 2022, and ended up being second.
They finished second. Here's something to think about, and you're so right. And if CJ's mentioned this before, Texas does basically take the offseason and say, where were we week a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
Last year went to the preseason media availability of Pete Kwiatkowski. only meets with the media once during the preseason, right, CJ? He walked up to the mic and said, we have 4 goals for this year. After the normal hellos and, we've got this guy coming back and this guy is this. And he said, we have 4 goals: improve third down percentage, improve fourth down, improve sacks, and improve turnovers. Those are our 4 goals. They got better in all 4 of them a year ago. So to your point, Rod, in what you were mentioning with CJ, that's absolutely what they do. They circle the problem areas, and that makes me think that Sark's probably going to be better in red zone, because for a fact he's still smarting from not getting across on 4th and 1 against OU. He's still upset that they didn't throw a touchdown against Washington. Yeah, it is what it is, Yeah. So interesting.
And I think in the spring, I don't know if you guys remember it, like several times Sark talked about, how the offense was doing versus the defense, and giving breakdowns. And Sark's pretty forthcoming. That's what I love about his media availabilities. And he talked about how in between the 20s, the defense actually was winning more than their fair share. But then when they got inside the 20, then the offense, they were the ones that were able to score and cash in. And basically they were kind of winning the red zone is what he implied. And I think that's because he's in his bag of tricks in the red zone in the spring, testing out some of them new ideas. In between the 20s, that defense, those guys are veterans. They've seen that Sark offense. They know what that Sark offense is. Even with new personnel, they know the route concepts. They know, especially his basic install too in spring, they know all that stuff pretty much. What they may not have known and why the offense was getting the better of them in red zone is that the new stuff, that the new innovative stuff Sark is bringing in the red zone. I think we see some new stuff. I think we see new concepts schematically. I think we see something we hadn't seen. I don't know what game, probably Michigan. We ain't gonna see it before that. So maybe Michigan, you'll see that, and maybe in that Oklahoma game you'll see it. But I guarantee you, there'll be stuff in the red zone that we have not seen yet that Sark will break out as part of his remedy to that issue.
What I think might be a solution from 8 to 12 yards away is Silas Bolden in that kind of quick space environment. We saw it a few years ago with Keelan Robinson. What they can do, kind of those reverse orbit motions, just get the ball in space and let him do what he does. He's tremendous with the ball after the catch. I put up some notes yesterday, some numbers on him and what he can do with the ball in his hands. And passes he receives between 1 and 10 yards, he's averaging about 6 yards per catch yards after the catch. So he can get going with the ball in his hands. Of course, he has some big ability after that as well. So we'll see, of course. And of course, we've all talked about the big bodies, CJ Baxter, that in between the tackles running back. Jaden Blue now up to 212 pounds. He's put on some weight to run between the tackles. And of course, Jarrett Gibson, a big body there as well.
I've got to say this. I got to say this. Do y'all remember the little reverse or shovel pass that they ran to Jordan Whittington for a 2-point conversion?
Yeah.
Remember that was that TCU or was that Iowa State?
Oh.
Yeah. But my thought process was they didn't use that enough last year. Like Sark has kind of gone away from that actually over the last 3 or 4 years. He started off using it a lot and still uses the orbit motion quite a bit.
Yeah, he does. He
went away from actually testing defenses that much that way. Thanks, AJJ.
Thanks, AJJ.
For that. Rick. I remember it was that. I knew I couldn't remember which game, but it was that short little shovel, and Sark hasn't done that much. I mean, CJ, you're not wrong that Silas Bolden would be good doing that. They kind of got away from it a little bit last year.
I agree, Bobby. My favorite routes that they would run from like the 3, the 5, the 7 are those whip routes on the outside. Just let Quinn get it outside, right? Let your wide receivers who went, first round, second round, beat a cornerback on their own. And they've done so tremendously. Now, there are times I think that there were some timing issues, right? Quinn against Houston, we saw Xavier Worthy beat his guy to the outside and the ball didn't go to him. I don't know if it was because Quinn had to look elsewhere or he just didn't pull the trigger because he might not have thought that there was enough space there. I've tweeted this video. We brought it up on here a few times. That play in the NFL needs to be a touchdown 10 times out of 10. Your wide receiver has created separation by 2 yards. If that's not a touchdown this year, I don't know if we've seen that jump that we've expected Quinn to make. Of course, we'll obviously have to wait and see. But the post corner to the comeback route that Xavier Worthy scored on against, I believe, Iowa State at home, or maybe Kansas State on the road 2 years ago. A.D. Mitchell's done it against Houston on the first drive this past year. It's some of those creativity kind of, let your wide receivers create separation on their own and get the rock to them that way. I'd like to see more of that as well, rather than let's go jumbo. Let's find ways that we can just overmatch guys. Because in the SEC, if it didn't work in the Big 12, why am I to believe it's going to work in the SEC?
No, that's a great point, CJ. It's one of my complaints about Sark, and I love me some Sark. He's great as a play caller, but he's got certain quirks, and one of them is my theory on Sark is Sark's one of those people, and y'all might be like one of these people too. So I'm not judging y'all. He doesn't eat leftovers. And what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is he doesn't play the hits offensively. So I'm assuming like that play you talked about, even the whip route, like it'll work to perfection. You'll think, damn, that's a nice play. He should use that again. And you may not see it again. I would even say you should see it in the same game. If I works in the first half, I'm gonna run it again in the second half. Sark's not like that. Sark is almost like very unique in his play calling. You'll see something early in the game, you go, damn, that worked really good. They should run that again just to see if the defense is ready for it. And Sark won't run it. And that's why I was like, well, he doesn't play the hits. If I'm an offensive coordinator, I play the hits. If it works, I'm going to run it again until you stop it. You're going to have to stop it. You're going to show me that you stop it. But he doesn't do that.
It's like his play sheet for the red zone is a roll of toilet paper. And he's, once I used it, I don't need it anymore. You just don't see that. I'm with you 100%. The similarity between the plays, the concepts that are used so often, you just don't see the ones that work all that often. It's
exactly.
It's curious. We'll ask him at SEC Media Days coming up next week.
Yeah, like you said, Bobby, that Iowa State play to Jay Witt, beautiful play. How often did you see it? Not very often. Remember 2 years ago against, man, it might have been 3 years ago versus Iowa State. Do y'all remember? Maybe that was 2021 versus Iowa State. How Xavier Worthy scored on that pre-snap motion play. Do y'all remember that? It was like a fake reverse, and then he orbited out. And
that was Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Thank you.
That was a beautiful play. They did run that once this year. Yeah,
they ran it with Steele against Texas Tech.
Yeah. Like you're like, well, hold up, they should run. That should be like 5 times a year. You just see that play just a staple because it's so beautiful. And yet Sark, like I said, so I say Sark doesn't like leftovers. It doesn't matter if it's the VY Steakhouse. He's throwing that out. He eat it once. He's not gonna try to enjoy it again. I love leftovers, so I would play the hits over and over again. I listen to the same songs all the damn time. I'm still jamming Tupac every day. I play the hits, and sometimes I wish Sark, because he's so innovative. I guess he says I'll have another great play. I don't need that. I got another one. Man.
Well, Rod, apparently we also learned that you know how to use Tupperware tonight.
Exactly. Thank you.
Rod's buffet discussion.
Yeah. Sark don't like the buffets, man. Sark, he wants everything unique, every meal unique. So I might start to chart that, how many plays for Sark that you're just kind of, they're one-hit wonders and you never see them again.
I'll tell you one that's not. I tell you one that is not a one-hit wonder for him is the throwback screen.
He loves it. The
throwback screen for him, if you chart it, I bet he threw that at least once in 10 games last year.
And it works. It's one of his successful plays. It works. It works a lot. It works really, really well. All right. So there you go. Let me get to our last sponsor here. We're very grateful to our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Wine for being part of the On Texas football team. Did you know, folks, right now the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the wine vineyard that is right closest to Austin, right? That's right, folks. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek, also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, or for a weekend getaway with your significant other. Go check out flatcreekestate.com. It's Flat Creek Estate Winery. And also, I can personally tell you, they also have Flat Creek Estate Wine at Central Market. My wife was there, and she was thrilled to find that her favorite wine now, Flat Creek wine, is also at Central Market. You can find that Super Texan there as well. They got the Pinot Grigio there as well. So thank you to Flat Creek Estate for sponsoring our 1 p.m. live stream here on Texas Football on Friday. Okay, let's get back to some of the questions here. Oh, we got some super chats. Oh, Jeff Carey says, great point, Rod Babers. Thank you very much, Jeff. We're very grateful for the love. Thank you for the super chat there, Jeff. We appreciate you. And happy Friday to you as well, Jeff. Tyler here says, is there any way any of y'all see Texas recruiting a two-way player that Texas allows to play both sides of the ball like Travis Hunter? Okay, can I add to Tyler's question? Great question, by the way, Tyler. Thank you very much for the super chat. Is there a player that Texas has recruited, Bobby or CJ, that could have been a two-way player in the past, but obviously they became specialized? So both questions. I want Tyler's question and then answer my question as well. Good question there, Tyler. Thank you for the super chat.
There's been a few in the past. Some haven't ended up at Texas, right? Terry Bussey a year ago, Billy Bowman, two guys that you could consider being a very top-end defensive back. The ball in their hands, they're electric, right? Billy Bowman had 2 pick sixes. He's been a great kick and punt returner for Oklahoma as well. Jordan Whittington at times was a very highly talented safety as well. He's a running back more so at Cuero. So I don't know. It takes a lot to be a Travis Hunter, right? You don't see those type of guys too often. You more so see them at the running back and linebacker position than you do cornerback and wide receiver, just because of that skill set to be a good D1 cornerback. Rod, you know all about it. It's not an easy thing to do. And so more times when you can catch, you're on offense. And if you can't catch, well, that's when you're on defense. And so to be able to play both routes or both ways when you have to run 30 yards each play or whatever, that's a lot to ask for. Jatavian Sanders is a good one, of course, but I think, again, his mind was pretty dead set on playing tight end. I don't know. I don't think you have a Miles Jack kind of guy right now that can play linebacker and running back at the moment, but it's unique. Travis Hunter is quite the specimen, quite the talent.
I would say this. I mean, those guys have to be super freaks.
Yep.
If they're really going to play at a high level now. I'm not talking about being able to do it at, I don't know, Sam Houston State. I'm talking about do it and do it well. Deion could have done it. Charles Woodson did it. Terry Bussey is a super freak athlete, by the way. I think that was a good call, but I think he's going to stick on one side or the other because A&M is going to be talented enough at both spots. Yeah. I think that is by and large a thing of time gone by. Travis Hunter is doing it a little bit, frankly, out of necessity at Colorado.
Yeah.
He did it at Jackson State, but that was, again, out of necessity and stuff. I just don't know that you're going to see many of those guys. Will Johnson at Michigan might get a chance to play a little offense at times, right? You're going to have a couple of those guys, but, I just don't know that. I'm trying to think of a Texas guy that fits that bill. And right now, I can't. Maybe I'll tell you one that might be interesting long term. And he announces on Monday is Nick Townsend.
Yeah,
a tight end linebacker type, but it may more of a pass rusher type. You mentioned linebacker, running back like Miles Jack, CJ. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of guys. I don't know. It seems like that day is come and gone. Although there are anomalies, not necessarily, and it won't happen every year. Like true anomalies, like once every 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, the thing, especially at a school like Texas, you brought up necessity. If you're going to be playing offense and defense, whether it be corner or wide receiver, you're more likely than not going to have to be a top 15, top 20 cornerback and wide receiver in the country for Texas to consider you in that given class, right? To be on both sides of the field, to play consistently, you're a pretty special athlete. And I just don't know if there's those kind of guys anymore, right? Texas has tried this in the past. I saw one of the comments, Texas needed a wide receiver, so they flipped over to Sean Jamison, right, under Tom Herman. Brendan Schooler, another guy, started as a wide receiver, and then all of a sudden, hey, we need you back at DB. David Benda, his first year. Texas needed running backs because Lord knows they only had about 2 on scholarship that were healthy. Flipped them over from linebacker to running back, but at the same time, you don't see that impact. You don't see them on the field like a Travis Hunter because it's a very difficult thing to do and to be a game changer on both sides of the ball. Well, you're just talking about one of the best athletes the sport currently has.
Hey, CJ, where do the NFL draft people have Travis Hunter? They have him at corner, don't they?
I believe so. And I think they have him at corner because, again, you just don't see that length, that athleticism out wide, right? You know, you see 6'2" wide receivers do what he can do.
Yeah.
Where he makes his money is obviously on the defensive side of the ball and being tutored by Dion.
I think he's definitely better corner. Yeah. I mean, I get that. Even though wide receiver is a more natural position for a lot of kids, young kids, corner. I mean, he can make a lot of money playing corner. I'll just put it that way.
Hell, the wide receivers are the one making out of money now. $30 million wide receivers. Ain't no $30 million corners, but I agree with you. Also, I think, he might be the best two-way player in modern college football history. I mean, he's a better wide receiver than a Charles Woodson was or a Champ Bailey was.
Yes.
Those guys are better corners than he is a corner. So, but I mean, he's still pretty damn elite. He's still top 5 in both of those.
You think, Rod, you agree they have to be freaky athletes, right?
Oh, yeah, it's got to be something. I mean, I played with some guys who, they were great athletes. They coming in and, Nathan Dasher actually was a wide receiver / DB. And they had no shot at it too. I mean, you got to be an alien basically. You're talking about an extraterrestrial type athlete, guys, and those guys are generated. You don't see those guys very often. Period. Dion was probably one of those guys at Florida State. Ended up playing more. You got a multiple sport or multiple position guys like the Brendan Schooler example you brought up. I mean, that guy started at multiple. He started at multiple positions for multiple Power 5 schools, guys. Like that's great athleticism. Like we don't talk enough about that. And then ended up in the league as a special teams ace. Like that's crazy. All right, a couple of questions here before we get ready to end this thing. Ryan wants to know, Bobby, how impressive was Mike Gundy's tenure at Oklahoma State has been? He says Mike Gundy is a savage in the best way. Yeah, we talked about Gundy. Gundy is just a hell of a coach, man.
Yeah. You can say whatever else you want about him off the field, right? But I mean, talk about he makes chicken salad from what sometimes. You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys. When did he lost to what was it, Jacksonville State one year or some kind of crazy no-name team?
South Alabama.
Like 3 years ago, right? And he comes, and it's on the last second play. He shouldn't have lost. And
Central Michigan.
Yeah, he comes back and wins 10 games that year. I mean, it's like I think that he knows how to push buttons. Yeah. Not necessarily of players, but of play calling in his team. And I think he does a good job recruiting to what he does. So, he's got receivers. He always seemingly has these receivers that were not highly rated, by the way. There were a couple that were. James Washington, Des Bryant. Those guys were highly rated. Don't get me wrong. But he always has these Brennan Presleys that are good, but, they're ranked 70th in the state of Texas overall. They're not top 10 or top 15. Yet, they go out and for him, they average 17 yards a catch. He throws them the ball 75 times, and they've got a good offense. They're reliable. He gets a quarterback and get it out quick and knows what he wants to do. Savage is not necessarily the right word, but he's just a good football coach. At the end of the day, you can take all the other chicanery out of it and just talk about football. Good football coach.
Yeah, Bobby, we talked about this on one of our live streams during this week. Oklahoma State over the last 4 years is 19-2 at home.
Yeah.
Those 2 losses,
crazy.
South Alabama, they lost 33-7, and then I believe it was a West Virginia team where they got blown out again, and that West Virginia team ended up being 5-7. So For whatever reason, they've been able to take down Oklahoma twice, Texas twice, TCU, whoever has been a contending team at home. Kansas State a year ago. It's confusing, but he does it his way and it works.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that year you're talking about, Bobby, that was 2016. They lost to Central Michigan. They were 2-2 to start the season, and then ended up 10-3. Like it's like he just figures it out on the fly. He did it this year when they lost to South Alabama.
Yeah, he starts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop trying to force feed the passing game, and I'm just going to give it to Ollie Gordon 40 times a game. Well, that's probably smart. It's your best player. Won the Doak Walker.
He was rotating 3 quarterbacks to start out. That's why he lost that game. Dude's a madman. He really is. He's a madman. He's actually the first coach to use that 3 high safety look that Iowa State popularized. It was actually Gundy that used it first. That Gundy is next level, man. Gundy's in terms of ball. He's a damn ball coach. He's a damn good one too. All right, a couple of more questions. Rick says, does Texas go more to the big front after losing Murphy and Sweat with guys like Savea and Broughton playing 5 technique and 3D tackles, or use run blitzes and compress sets? That is a good question. I think you will get more run blitzes. I think that's part of the Johnny Nansen influences with this group. I think you're going to get them, but I don't think you'll get 3D tackles on the field like that ever. Not for Texas. But
I will say this: Lole and Savea both did it at their former places. Lole actually played a lot of 5 technique, didn't he, CJ? Do you remember?
Yeah. I don't have the numbers out in front of me, but yes, he spun out to the 5 quite often, more so than any of the other interior defensive linemen a year ago. So did Alfred Collins at times, so you have the option to do so. I just don't think you trade what should be the strength of your team in the speed department off the edge for guys. Obviously, it depends, down, distant, opponent, whatever. But at the same time, to make up for what you lost with Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, you don't overcompensate with 3 defensive tackles in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with Rod and CJ on that too. I mean, Rod was saying that, and I think that our issue here is you get so worried and caught up about also stopping the run. Well, do you want to take away your strength, which may be your pass rush, by adding another run stopper? And I don't know that that's a good trade. Maybe at times it will be, right? Maybe, but I don't think it's a good trade on average for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know if there's anything to worry about with D tackle yet. I think everybody wants to be sure there are contingency plans in place, which I think there are, in case there is a precipitous drop off with the loss of Sweat and Murphy. Slick Rick, thank you for the super chat. Thank you very much here. For the myth, the man, and the legend, Bobby, the best at anything Texas football. Thank you for your content. Rod, are you going to play CJ on NCAA and live stream it? We can do that. We can get that done. Like I said, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I need to play a little bit before we do that. But CJ and I can get that done. We definitely can.
I may have a special gift coming for you two, by the way, to be able to do that. So just hang on tight.
Let's do
it. See, there you go. Now you got Bobby.
I had to tease it a little bit.
All right. So that
I
means
won't necessarily be tuning into that. Maybe some younger people will.
That
can help make that happen.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All I ask is a couple of practice sessions first with CJ. I don't want my first time playing the game to be when we live stream it. I don't want to embarrass myself. All right. Thank you guys. Football Junkie. Thank you very much for the super chat. Sorry I missed that one, Football Junkie. Could Arch leave for 2026 draft? Any other 2023 players that could leave early? I don't see Arch leaving after one season, right? I mean, it seems like the pattern for the Mannings has been, they get multiple years as a starter in college. Different generation, but what are your thoughts, guys? And any other players that could leave early for the 2026 draft?
Anthony, huh?
I'm doing a thing with Jerry Hamilton over the weekend where we're going to talk. Like, I went back and looked at the 2022 recruiting class. Okay. And I called that kind of the foundation of what Steve Sarkisian laid, that those 7 offensive linemen, a couple other players that I think are important at different positions. 2023 class, I'm calling it the breakthrough class. This is the one where they didn't just turn it around. They're trying to break through the glass ceiling that's been Texas. Anthony Hill is definitely a 3-and-out guy at this point for me. Questions are whether or not Derek Williams and Manny Muhammad might be. I don't know if Manny's going to run well enough. Cedric Baxter, just because he's not going to want a lot of tread on the tires before he goes pro. He's going to be effectively a 1.5 2 year starter. And then you have guys like Colton Vosick, Jaden Chapman, but I don't see any of those being 3-and-out. The 3-and-done ones potentially are Williams, Baxter, Muhammad, and Hill. Maybe a Jonte Cook if he has back-to-back strong seasons. But the 4 that I think are 3-and-out potentially are Hill, Baxter, Williams, Muhammad. I think Manning, to y'all's point, is at least a 2-year starter.
Good stuff there, Bobby. Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're lucky enough. I'm pretty confident you're gonna get a Manning for a couple of years. But does CJ have any information on whether Flores, Thomas, or is that Boehm is returning next season in baseball? Sorry if I mispronounced that name.
Yeah, again, this question, we see it often, so it's worth addressing. MLB draft begins Sunday. It goes all the way through Tuesday. You will know then whether or not those grades, those draft results are, in the area of a possible return or not. Of course, the MLB draft, very unique in the way that where you get drafted, there's only a certain amount of money that you can negotiate up to. I know the NFL, NBA have similar situations, but the MLB is very unique in the sense that if the guy before you in the round prior does not sign, that money then drops down a little bit as well. So you could certainly be competing very, college level like with some MLB teams for a possible return for some of these guys, or you could be looking at a guy that's signing for 1.5 to 2 times or potentially 3 times what his slotted amount could be. So we'll see. No updates right now. No updates through the weekend until we see the first couple of rounds of the MLB draft.
Good stuff there. All right, last question. CJ is, I'm going to mess up this name, so I'm sure CJ probably knows how to pronounce it better than me. Is Tagaoa still an option? How close am I to pronouncing that correctly? Or did I butcher it, CJ?
I say Matai Tagoe. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Linebacker out of California, committed to USC at the moment. Texas was hoping to get him on campus for an official visit. Obviously, he made his decision beforehand, never made it over to Austin. Again, we'll see what happens with USC and their defense this year. The Texas staff is a big fan of his. So we'll see. Of course, you got to get him on campus, have any type of opportunity to flip him. If USC does not, kind of come through with the way that their defense under D'Anton Lynn is expected to be making that jump this year, maybe things open up later on, but you got to get them on the campus first before having any chance there.
Good stuff there, CJ. All right. Thank you guys for all of the super chats. Thank you guys for all the questions, your participation. It goes by fast because of you guys. So we really, really are grateful for that. Thank you to my man Matthew behind the scenes. He's a real MVP. Thank you to our sponsors, South Point Dodge and Flat Creek Estate Winery. We appreciate their and all of their love and support. Also, my man. By the way, let's tease what we got going on, by the way, tomorrow on the channel for Bobby, for the folks out there.
Tomorrow, I actually have a special Saturday conversation with the Longhorn tight end group. Should be fun. Gunnar Helm, not all of them were able to join us, but as part of Burn Ends, the NIL collective that does that and provides for them. They came on Texas football. They've come on Texas football. We'll have it tomorrow morning for you with Gunnar Helm, Juan Davis, Will Randall, some of the guys talk a little Texas football. Obviously, tonight is big, waiting on the pledge potentially of Jonathan Cunningham as well, the linebacker out of North Crowley.
All right, good stuff there. Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to that little segment with the tight ends. That's going to be really cool. Okay, can't wait for that. All right, thanks, Bobby, for everything you do. Thank you, CJ, for everything you do as well. And thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.